This audio reading is taken from the book Words of Wisdom for Daily Life by Charles Spurgeon. Our selected reading is entitled, What is Pride? There is nothing into which the heart of man so easily falls as pride, and there is no vice which is more frequently, more emphatically, and more eloquently condemned in Scripture. Pride is a groundless thing. It standeth on the sands, or worse than that, it puts its foot on the billows which yield beneath its tread, or, worse still, it stands on bubbles, which soon must burst beneath its feet. Of all things pride has the worst foothold. It has no solid rock on earth whereon to place itself. We have reasons for almost everything, but we have no reasons for pride. Pride is a thing which should be unnatural to us, for we have nothing to be proud of. Again, it is a brainless thing as well as a groundless thing, for it brings no profit with it. There is no wisdom in a self-exaltation. Other vices have some excuse, for men seem to gain by them. Avarice, pleasure, lust, have some plea. But the man who is proud sells his soul cheaply. He opens wide the floodgates of his heart, to let men see how deep is the flood within his soul. Then suddenly it floweth out, and all is gone, and all is nothing, for one puff of empty wind. One word of sweet applause, the soul is gone, and not a drop is left. In almost every other sin we gather up the ashes when the fire is gone, but here what is left? The covetous man hath his shining gold, but what hath the proud man? He has less than he would have had without his pride, and is no gainer whatever. Pride wins no crown, men never honour it, not even the menial slaves of earth. For all men look down on the proud man and think him less than themselves. Again, pride is the maddest thing that can exist. It feeds upon its own vitals. It will take away its own life, that with its blood it may make a purple for its shoulders. It sappeth and undermineth its own house, that it may build its pinnacles a little higher, and then the whole structure tumbleth down. Nothing proves men so mad as pride. Then pride is a protean thing. It changes its shape. It is all forms in the world. You may find it in any fashion you may choose. You may see it in the beggar's rags as well as in the rich man's garments. It dwells with the rich and with the poor. The man without a shoe to his foot may be as proud as if he were riding in a chariot. Pride can be found in every rank of society, among all classes of men. Sometimes it is an Arminian, and talks about the power of the creature. Then it turns Calvinist, and boasts of its fancied security, forgetful of the Maker, who alone can keep our faith alive. Pride can profess any form of religion. It may be a Quaker, and wear no collar to its coat. It may be a churchman, and worship God in splendid cathedrals. It may be a dissenter, and go to the common meeting house. It is one of the most Catholic things in the world. It attends all kinds of chapels and churches. Go where you will see pride. It cometh up with us to the house of God. It goeth with us to our houses. It is found on the mart and the exchange, in the streets and everywhere. Let me hint at one or two forms which it assumes. Sometimes pride takes the doctrinal shape. It teaches the doctrine of self-sufficiency. It tells us what man can do, and will not allow that we are lost, fallen, debased and ruined creatures as we are. It hates divine sovereignty and rails at election. Then, if it is driven from that, it takes another form. It allows that the doctrine of free grace is true, but does not feel it. It acknowledges that salvation is of the Lord alone, but still it prompts men to seek heaven by their own works, even by the deeds of the law. And when driven from that, it will persuade men to join something with Christ in the matter of salvation. And when that is all rent up, and the poor rag of our righteousness is all burned, pride will get into the Christian's heart as well as the sinner's. It will flourish under the name of self-sufficiency, teaching the Christian that he is rich and increased in goods, having need of nothing. It will tell him that he does not need daily grace, that past experience will do for tomorrow, that he knows enough, toils enough, prays enough. It will make him forget that he has not yet attained. It will not allow him to press forward to the things that are before, forgetting the things that are behind. It enters into his heart and tempts the believer to set up an independent business for himself. And until the Lord brings about a spiritual bankruptcy, pride will keep him from going to God. Pride has 10,000 shapes. It is not always that stiff and starched gentleman that you picture. It is a vile, creeping, insinuating thing that will twist itself like a serpent into our hearts. It will talk of humility and prate about being dust and ashes. I have known men talk about their corruption most marvellously, pretending to be all humility, while at the same time they were the proudest wretches that could be found this side the gulf of separation. Oh, my friends, ye cannot tell how many shapes pride will assume. Look sharp about you, or you will be deceived by it, and when you think you are entertaining angels, you will find you have been receiving devils unawares. The true throne of pride everywhere is the heart of man. If we desire, by God's grace, to put down pride, the only way is to begin with the heart. Now, let me tell you a parable in the form of an Eastern story which will set this truth in its proper light. A wise man in the East, called a dervish, in his wanderings, came suddenly upon a mountain, and he saw beneath his feet a smiling valley, in the midst of which there flowed a river. The sun was shining on the stream, and the water, as it reflected the sunlight, looked pure and beautiful. When he descended, he found it was muddy, and the water utterly unfit for drinking. Hard by, he saw a young man in the dress of a shepherd who was with much diligence filtering the water for his flocks. At one moment he poured some water into a pitcher, and then allowing it to stand, after it had settled, he poured the clean fluid into a cistern. Then, in another place, he would be seen turning aside the current for a little, and letting it ripple over the sand and stones that it might be filtered and the impurities removed. The dervish watched the young man endeavouring to fill a large cistern with clear water, and he said to him, "My son, why all this toil? What purpose dost thou answer by it?" The young man replied, "Father, I am a shepherd. This water is so filthy that my flock will not drink it, and therefore I am obliged to purify it little by little. So I collect enough in this way that they may drink, but it is hard work." So saying, he wiped the sweat from his brow, for he was exhausted with his toil. "Right well hast thou laboured," said the wise man, "but dost thou know thy toil is not well applied? With half the labour thou mightest attain a better end. I should conceive that the source of this stream must be impure and polluted. Let us take a pilgrimage together and see." They then walked some miles, climbing their way over many a rock, until they came to a spot where the stream took its rise. When they came near to it, they saw flocks of wild fowls flying away, and wild beasts of the earth rushing into the forest. These had come to drink, and had soiled the water with their feet. They found an open well, which kept continually flowing, but by reason of these creatures, which perpetually disturbed it, the stream was always turbid and muddy. "My son," said the wise man, "set to work now to protect the fountain and guard the well, which is the source of this stream. And when thou hast done that, if thou canst keep these wild beasts and fowls away, the stream will flow of itself, all pure and clear, and thou wilt have no longer need for thy toil." The young man did it, and as he laboured, the wise man said to him, "My son, hear the word of wisdom. If thou art wrong, seek not to correct thine outward life, but seek first to get thy heart correct, for out of it are the issues of life, and thy life shall be pure when once thy heart is so." So if we would get rid of pride, we should not proceed to arrange our dress by adopting some special costume, or to qualify our language by using an outlandish tongue, But let us seek of God that he would purify our hearts from pride, and then assuredly, if pride is purged from the heart, our life also shall be humble. Make the tree good, and then the fruit shall be good. Make the fountain pure, and the stream shall be sweet. This concludes our reading. Thank you for listening.